Alright, I don't know how well this is going to record or how well this is going to logistically work out. Back out here in the woods again, fairly freed up area, using a kind of complex system. I got some notes on here which may or may not play out, but yeah, just because I didn't have a pen around. This is basically an outspoken version of the post I made recently about sexual charge and neutralizing sexual charge, and it's related to basically qigong and how this abuse of those energies are related to the control system and basically a energetic harvesting process and part of this mind control system. And so the title is about neutralizing the sexual charge or polarization, and it's basically about bringing the lower polarization, which means that the charge is going to continually want to be received or released through the lower sexual means, which is basically the lower chakras, and so I'm trying to block the wind out here. And so this is it basically turns into an abuse situation where it's like an addiction, and as well the person, if they don't want that to happen to them, if they get into a situation, it can be done. And so, of course, a person can refuse to get into those situations or avoid them. A person can a whole variety of defenses, but the idea is, if say a person is being raped, okay, well, at a high level of control they can resist sexual stimulation, but the idea is, if a person's being raped, then there's direct influence on the sexual organs, and so there's only so many physical reactions that are going to occur there. But does that mean, okay, that person enjoyed that and call them up tomorrow and do the same thing? No, it means people can be abused through these means. That's part of being in a physical body. There are vulnerabilities that are basically agreed to in living in a physical body, and so we have to take steps to make use of the ability to learn to overcome and defend against those vulnerabilities, as well gaining the even compassion and knowledge, respect, self-awareness, and harmony in overcoming those and respecting others, and knowing the possibility that others are out there that may seek to abuse those methods. And so it's all a learning process, but the higher the learning process is, I'm saying, that comes with the body, then the higher the possibility for suffering or an unexpected experience. And so the first segment I remember is breathing. And so breathing is an important part of everything, every practice, whether it's martial art, whether it's meditation, or eating. If you're eating and you have an improper breathing pattern, you're going to choke. Okay, so it's important in everything that has to do with the body and the mind. It's the integral part of the way the mind interfaces with the body. So there are many cycles that occur in patterns throughout the body and the mind, and the way the interactions occur. And so because breathing is continuous, it's happening all the time, and we have conscious control over breathing, if we apply ourselves, that's the one that is going to enable us to have the most direct control over our states of mind and body, meaning how calm we are and how balanced our energy is physically, and how calm and balanced our energy is mentally, which is essentially mentally and emotionally. And all three, or just the energetic aspects, can relate to, you can be summed up as spiritually, but as well, that's also spiritual as everything, where it's physical, mental, and emotional. And so, our heartbeat is a cycle that's occurring all the time, but the way we access the heart is through the conscious control over the breathing, and through those as well as some other methods, posture, things like that I'll get into. Through those methods and access points, we can then control the heart. And so through those other methods, we can control the influence and the cycles of our body. Basically, through the observation of all the methods and the access points we have consciously to influence the body, then we can basically gain access to what are generally believed to be unconscious or subconscious cycles and changes of the body, of basically these biorhythms like the heartbeat and maybe blood acidity and healing response. We can produce a higher white blood cell count and boost the immune system. We can tap into what is generally thought of as genetic memory. You can attain states of memory control and focus that are otherwise kind of distorted. So we gain access to these elements of existence that we don't generally have conscious control over directly by going through these peripheral changes in cycles, and the breathing is the foundation and as well the main result. When we start at the breathing and get all these other cycles up, eventually when we finalize what we're doing, we'll still be in control of the breathing. There's no point where you just let off and it's like whatever happens. And so breathing is important, and basically it's all about cycles, from the brainwave cycles to the cycles of the heart to the cycles of the breath. They're all connected, but they start with the breathing, to the point where when emotions kind of go out of whack, you'll notice the breathing is what goes off first, and or give or take, they're kind of reflexive, and so, but either way they're connected. So you'll know, because for instance, you can't really get out of breath and breathe crazy whether you're emotional or not. You can't do that without having the heart affected, okay? And usually you can't, you could, you can't, it's weird, because you can't get a fast heart rate and not influence your breathing, but you don't have to go out of breath. You can breathe deeper, okay? And you can have, forgot about this, you can have deeper breathing, and that'll have an effect on stabilizing the heart as well. It'll feed back into that and calm everything down. But it doesn't mean you have to have quick, shallow breaths because your heart is increasing. So you have all these methods, these venues of control, and so as well, they're all connected. So when your emotions and your brainwaves are kind of getting out of sync, your heart will be out of sync, and your breath is going to be out of sync. When everything goes into disarray, that's where the most suffering is experienced. That's where people kind of they lose control. So they'll lose control of their experience, their body, their mind, their body, and potentially the energy and emotions. And that's where energy is manipulated. People get into these situations, they get into playing these roles, and that's producing an effect, a response, and these actual biochemical, neuronal, it's literal photonic light that's emitted. It's bioemissions. They are bioemissions. These are absorbed, and they collect into a frequency layer in the universe, and this is where those darker entities, because it's kind of like saying this is where bad ideas live. It's the same thing. That's where they coalesce, and people here in this plane have found a way to capitalize on that, because they've centered themselves in that lower astral or higher plane. And the astral, in this sense, is just a technologically manifested frequency vibration that is based upon these generator systems that are connected to these frequency levels of distortion, confusion, lust, addiction, suffering, pain, fear, things like that. And so it's a energy harvesting spiritual enslavement system that they cleverly developed. But all they did, it was already there. They just mimicked the higher one and created this lower one. A spiritual flow system was already there, and that's usually the higher system where the progression, the spiritual identity, basically the learning develops into these higher and higher layers of spiritual frequencies that are non-physical planes that exist, or one non-physical plane, you could say. And these, that's just already what was there. They found this and realized you can't really give that to humanity and remain on top, because the idea of being on top is an illusion, especially in a circular world. Look at it that way. It's an illusion, being a before or after anyone else's circle. So, so they had to cut that in half and turn it back into a polarized version, and through that they create the illusion of servitude, and through that they create basically an energetic dominance and enslavement system, and it's based upon fear and addiction and things like that. And so those are that's like the outline of it. Then there are methods that they use to create fear in the public and to create the type of lustful addictions and habits and subservience to these energies and these manipulations, this psychological disrespect of another's energy, which correlates and keeps the whole cycle going. And it's like a cycle, to the point where once we stop from engaging in that and allowing people to do that to us and around, it'll take a little bit and it'll wind down, because that energy is in that system that's existing and it's going and going and going. Once we pull off, it's not just going to immediately stop. It's going to have some energy within it. It's kind of like a big electrical system, like when you turn your TV or computer off or something, and there's that glow and then it fades off. There's still residual charge within the system. And so that's basically the system that we're in, and it's going to wind down. Now, how that works is pretty much how fast and how well we organize in order to pump the other version of the system, the higher system, back up. Say we turn it off and we just sit back. Well, it could take 1,000 years to wind down if we have that long. Now, say in the process of turning off, we are pumping up the spiritual awareness energy, the healing, and the knowledge that's required for creating a flow that benefits humanity. Okay, if we do that to the maximum, then a lot of people would probably get their energy blown out and their minds blown, if you imagine that, just like overwhelmed with the truth that's coming out. But that system would disappear. It would dissolve right before our eyes, and we could wake up in a beautiful place. So it's all about it's usually all about a happy medium, or a like not an intermediary, but like a calm integration. I can't think of the word, because you don't want to overwhelm. That's the whole point. Everything is mostly about a smooth transition. Now, there are, though, experiences such as the basically you don't want to overwhelm to the point where there's damage. For instance, there are other experiences where the idea is to be overwhelmed. The idea is to have a crazy experience, but not a crazy, but an intense experience. So the idea behind a sexual orgasm or a spiritual fulfillment, like a spiritual realization, one of those heightened spiritual moments, is basically about being overwhelmed. It's not that you don't want to be overwhelmed, but it's not necessarily that you want to be overwhelmed to the point where you're like, this is too much. But the idea of, it's kind of like a roller coaster of riding that wave of emotion, knowledge, or sensation. Okay, that's what it's there for. That's why that experience, because it's an experience. You can't get that other places, elsewhere. So that's the idea behind it. And because of that, if we can participate in that safely in the world, being aware of everyone's boundaries and safely working through all these problems, then we can have that powerfully intensive shift where many things change rapidly, and the knowledge that comes out is almost like a worldwide spiritual enlightenment, and it just blows people away. Because it's not going to literally blow them away, okay? They're not going to fly off into the wind. It's just mental. But if people can't handle the mental, emotional changes, they shut down, and it's not beneficial for society, as a whole. And so the breathing then, by observing the breathing, because that's what we have conscious control over, and normally we're not aware of breathing, we're not thinking about it. By doing that, we place emphasis on that through those very brain waves, which are reflexively interacting with the breath and the heart, and then back into the brain waves. So by doing that, we're creating a feedback loop, and that feedback loop is going to feed back into itself. When that happens, what we're focusing on is going to magnify and magnify. And so if we're creating a calm, steady production through that focus, then that, in a consistency, then that will expand upon itself, and we'll get results from that, meaning whatever we do in that state, as we're in that state of focus, is going to be magnified and intensified. It's kind of like if somebody's in a state of high alertness, but they're in a panic mode. Okay, whatever they do in that state is it's not going to work very well. They're kind of just going to be all over the place, and they're not really going to know what's going on or how to most effectively control their energies and their actions. So when you're in a state of alertness and something is happening in rapid fire succession, okay, when you're breathing deep and you're calm and collected, that's when your change, your influence on that situation is going to be that much more impactful. Okay, and especially because it's a high impact situation. So it's all reflexive, and it all leads into itself. And so, and the breathing does a lot. It's, any problem, any situation, you don't really have to go into very other, far out areas. You can literally just focus on the breathing and then kind of return to that calm center, and from there your brain, or more so your mind at that point, kind of goes around the brain. Your mind will begin to find the problem automatically. Your body begins to work through it automatically. So it's kind of like a cheat code, but it's also the basis of what we were doing anyway. That's painful. So what we're doing anyway, and focus on the breathing, it produces these results. So then next is posture. Your posture is just as connected to breathing and how this works as is your internal posture, your focus, your attention, any potential for distraction, pain, injury, distortion. They're all reflexive and reflected into one another. So your brain waves, your heart, your breathing, okay, that's also going to be affected by your posture. And if your posture is good, I have a tendon that's torn out of place, so I never have fully unslouched shoulders. But you can also, I'll let the planes pass. Maybe that was just what just beamed me. It was pretty painful. And so you'll notice when somebody's in emotional distress and their breathing is suppressed, okay, you'll notice they're hunched over. They're not going to have good posture. You'll notice when somebody has good posture, they're usually confident and at peace and relaxed. Okay, so that's how it works. And as well, your muscular tension, or maybe integrity, the health, is going to influence the alignment of your posture. And so they all tie together, as well as even then your digestive tract having enough room to function, and the strength to function, and your cardiovascular, your nervous system, how your joints are being affected, all the systems of the body. And so those basic ideas of breathing, posture, and focus, and how they're all entangled with whether you're aware of consciously how these are influencing yourself, your whole self, your results, your experience, the suffering, the not suffering, or the health. Okay, that is the key. It's the key to your conscious control over these patterns and cycles that are otherwise basically just automated. It's just handled by the cells of your body. And so in doing that, you can produce intention, and you can bring forth awareness that's going to integrate what you want in a way that it's basically the same as if you're speaking to your cells. It's if you're speaking to your body, and your body will respond and react. And so that's the basis for that whole situation. And so I kind of went through that part real quick as far as the idea of that all leading to what it results is enhanced self-observation, and therefore enhanced self-awareness, where you understand, just like looking in the mirror, you understand what you are, who you are, how it's working, how your energy system interacts, and all those things. It's kind of like the creator being producing a world of light, which became the mirror through which it's the canvas of emotions and physicality and mentality to know itself. And so the body is that for your higher spiritual essence. And so to make sense of that, okay, to make use of that, you have to know yourself. To know yourself, you have to look at yourself and self-observe. Okay, and in doing that, those feedback patterns are created. And eventually what that really comes down to is the realization of harmony or disharmony. Because we know harmony or disharmony depending on how we feel. Yet do you know that you know based upon how you've been kind of self-observing, and therefore recording these patterns of what causes the harmony, what results in disharmony, and how there's an interplay and how to navigate those levels. If you just know one and the other when they're there, but you haven't recorded and observed to the point where when they're not there, you can abstract and think about and project what may come and things like that, then you're still in a state of basically sleepiness or sleepfulness where you're not aware of these things. So the whole idea behind that is self-observation, increasing awareness, and observing the self and recording in order to gain that higher self-awareness where now you know that you're aware and you know how it works, and you can basically exert your will, your intentions, your influence to bring about the desired results. That's including defense against possible distortions from other places, as well as enhancing the harmony, which is, they're basically the same thing. But it helps to differentiate between I'm enhancing the harmony because that's just what I'm doing now, or I'm enhancing the harmony because that's the defense against, threat A, B, or C, or whatever is going on in the world. So then the lower chakra stimulation and the perineum and rectum, and that's where this is all kind of going. So just in the same sense, you have the emotions, the mind, body, breathing, and these cycles that influence the cycle of the heart and whatnot. The lower chakra, which is basically the perineum, which is right between your legs, it's that muscle that is usually, it's when you stop urinating, that's the muscle that's tensing. It's actually the it's like the I think the coccyx muscle, that's a short word doctors use. There's actually like a long, it's like that long, the word. Muscle's actually that long, it goes up into your body, it's kind of weird. And so, fun fact. So, there's that, and then the rectal muscle, the sphincter, which is the outside muscle that holds your fecal matter in, that you relax when you're going to the bathroom. Another fun fact is that humans are kind of designed. I mean, most animals are, but upright beings have this entanglement where the muscle kind of goes like this. And so when you stand up, it pinches, and it's hard. I mean, notice if you're straight up, it's really hard to poop your pants, okay? So, the best way to go to the bathroom is to squat, so your knees are above your belly button. And that actually pushes the inside of your digestive tract out, and there's a little loop that relaxes so that the fecal matter can go down. It's actually like that. And so when people are sitting upright, they're not squatting, they're upright, it's actually still kinked. It's almost just as kinked as when you're just standing up. That is a cause of a lot of disorders, from intestinal cancers and things like that, even prostate disorders. There's something called a squatty potty, and I always had this idea as a kid. I would always get shoe boxes, I still do it, or stools, and put it next to the toilet. And because Americans really aren't comfortable with like squatting on the ground or anything like that. But that's probably better than that. And if you raise your heels, your feet, your knees, just so they're above the belly button, it's actually, it performs the same, provides the same results, that the little muscle will be relaxed and everything actually works a lot more effectively. And so that and fiber, most people don't have enough fiber, is good for the digestive and intestinal health, more so intestinal health. Down there, digestive is more what you eat and stuff like that, as far as how it breaks down, and how your acids in the liver and the gallbladder and the pancreas all take care of that. And so then those two muscles, I wish I looked it up beforehand. I always forget it in like 2 minutes. Pubococcygeal something, that's not nucleic, that's the cells. Anyway, it's the pubococcygeal muscle, or PC muscle for short. And that and the sphincter, the rectum. And so when those are tightened, they're tense, there is a drawing of charge through the nervous system, as well fluids and membranes, and it centers around the area underneath the belly button, and the abdomen tends to tighten, and charge is ultimately drawn upwards when the mind activates these higher levels, and they're basically just the senses, the nervous system, the nerves, the little nerves. There's nadis in I can't remember the meditation, the massage. It's not feng shui. It's there's a form of massage that there's actually all of the Chinese forms of massage know about these, but there's meridians, Chinese meridians. That's not the name, but that's just what they're called. And there's these channels, these nadis. Nadis are actually, I think, Indian. I think nadis. And so there's channels all throughout the body, and these are basically just nerve systems and lymphatic symptoms, channels. Man, my memories, I must be getting sprayed or something, I don't know, just blame it on this guy. But they're lymphatic channels all around, and then there's nerves all around, and when you press on them, when you massage, when you stretch them, when they're blocked up, whatever it is, these are going to be different different symptoms that are going to result, and eventually when they're real blocked, they turn into disease. And so there's foods, essential oils, herbs, peppers, greens, tinctures, all types of stuff like that helps everything clean out, flush out, flow, organ cleanse, digestive, blood, skin, stuff like that. Skin's heavily related to the liver, and I'm not going to go through the rest of them because I'm not familiar, and I forget everything. Well, I've forgotten a lot more than most people talk about, but I'm not. Yeah. I'm just all there because the idea is that it's like dominoes, where one action goes and interacts, then it's going to have to be dealt with in some way. So eventually everything has to get cleaned out, whether that's through massage or motion and activation through stimulation, muscular stimulation, exercise, or detoxing with herbs. And none of them, not one, will do it all. You want to have all of them to have that effect of actually producing a clean, clarified system. But those nervous channels, those electrical, they're literal like electrical wiring to the body. When your mind passes sensation, just like a tickle, or somebody's about to tickle you, and they're like, and you can kind of feel it starting, and you're like, or right here, if you have sunglasses, most kids lose that. There's actually a heavy bundle of nerves here, that relates to what people call the third eye. And if you have sunglasses on, it usually tickles, and sometimes people will sneeze and all types of stuff if you just have something slightly pressed there. So that's the sensation of those nerves being stimulated, as well as just touch or sensation. But the idea is that tickle sensation that's so light, or when somebody's like about to, moving like real close to your body or something, and you can't feel anything touching you, but you feel like this sensation. You can't tell if it's heat, you can't tell if it's electrical static charge, whatever it is. So that's the energy. That's vital force, chi, prana, whatever you want to call it. That's the energy when your mind is focused and you send energy up and down while tensing these muscular systems, and whichever one you're working on at the time. That's how your mind influences energy and draws energy around the body. It's where your attention and intention is focused. And so that, combined with the tightening of the PC muscle and the rectum, is what draws negative sexual charge upwards into the higher systems of the body, and there it is integrated and used for health. Your body automatically uses it for health. And when it's in the mind, when it gets to the highest point in the mind, you can use it for creativity. And as well, the end result, the highest impact of that, is that eventually it flows out to the top of your head, and you have a kind of a heightened spiritual experience. And that's also the some of the ancient talk about Jacob's ladder, basically a tree of enlightenment or knowledge. All these talks, tree of life. All these methods and knowledges, and a whole bunch. It goes from one to the next. So basically, in producing the tightness of the PC muscle between your legs and the rectum, and sometimes for like sexual exercises, they're called Kegels, but I don't really want to get into that as well. So you can do this 100, 1,000 times a day. People will usually cause some type of damage if they are not in shape and they squeeze and squeeze, because you can squeeze your whole body and put all the pressure on that tight little muscle, tight area. So before one attempts more than 5 to 10 squeezes, maybe per day or per multiple times per day, one should get into at least a simple form of fitness level from aerobics or calisthenics, and so the abdominal area usually wants to be tightened, and this can be done through aerobics and calisthenics. Calisthenics. And so you can lay down on the floor and do heel raises, about 4 to 6 inches off the ground, and just do quick ones, maybe 6 to 12 at a time, and maybe 2 or 3 sets of that every day for a couple weeks, and you'll rapidly build the abdominal wall strength and all those surrounding muscles and tissues. Eventually you can do 6 inch off the ground holds for 6 to 12 seconds at a time. We used to do them in football, and never play football. And I mean, I'm just saying, don't bang your head on stuff. So can't play football. That's how you destroy your brain. Watch the movie with Will Smith. Talked about it. Of course, I can't. I played football and I can't remember the name of the movie. I didn't really watch it though. It's not focused anyway. So we used to do it for like 20-30 seconds at a time, that we would hold it, and people would be like screaming like, I can't do it, and you have to go run if you couldn't do it. It was the best shape ever though. And then we bump our heads together and we're like, what's the number to answer for, or whatever, exactly, what's the number to answer for? And so not cool for that part of the environment, the whole environment of school. That was the best part of school, not being in school, but having these extracurricular activities that develop discipline through overcoming weakness and pain and suffering, not bumping our heads together. But that'll strengthen your abdominal walls, and even the I think mesothelial tissue, or membrane, which is connected to the serous membrane, which is part of your peritoneum, and biology 101. It's good stuff to you got multiple layers of tissue. They all serve different purposes, and they all, because of their different purposes, or they're formed differently. They feel different. They have different textures. They have different functions. They're basically different everything, different tissues. And there'll be classes of them that then separate and specialize into different versions for that, and they'll be located in different areas about the body. But that thin membrane, that's basically that cartilage that's around the body, and it's within. If you ever seen the inside of a body, okay, there's this white membrane that's usually wrapping around each different layer. I mean, shoot, if you chopped up a chicken before, it's the same stuff. And so that's in your abdomen, holding in your intestines, separating that from the outer muscular layer, which is then under the skin and under a subcutaneous fat layer. You want that to be strong enough, because that's where basically hernias will develop, and the intestines will burst through that if there's been no exercise, no work, and the tensibility, the tension or tensegrity within that area is just like, I haven't had to do any work, so there's no tensegrity there. Okay, you don't want that. You want to build up to these exercises and strengthen the abdomen daily through light jogging, as long as your joints are good, are good and balanced and healthy. You got a good synovial fluid, and no previous injuries. Lying on your back, doing them holds, doing simple aerobics, moving around, like jazzercise, that's fine. It's perfect, as long as you get a good exercise. Kickboxing, if you do that, a lot of women love the kickboxing, jazzercise, stuff like that, and they're getting more into like cycling and kind of like semi-high impact, like even like music kickboxing and stuff like that. And so that's good stuff, as long as there's a burn. Even those the yoga too, they're doing that. Like some observed species, because everybody does that, it's good for everybody. But those inflatable balls, the yoga blocks, the lightweight, like 8 pounds, something called a body blade, which I used for physical therapy and shoulder reconstruction, and it's a long fiberglass blade, little rectangle, thin like a long fan kinda. It has a handle and it has 2 little weights on the end, and you shake it, and it wants to shake you off balance. And when you do that, it tightens every part of your body. Like I'm literally I'm gonna get one probably, because simple stuff like that, repeated work, high repetition, high rep, good general low weight, cross fitness type stuff. That's how you get every aspect of your body in shape. Just targeting a few muscle groups with high impact weight training, you're just going to end up in balance. That's how it works. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying that when you get into something where you're trying to be aware of yourself and get into a yogic balance, or train your mind as well, not just to push with willpower, but to relax and find balance and to learn to sense and pull energy, you'll get out of that into something else. Okay, you might still do weight training on the side, but you'll find that there are other techniques which benefit that in a more balanced manner. And so that's kind of sums up that section, that you want to have some type of physical fitness before you begin fine-tuning these little specialized muscles that will induce all these kind of spiritual responses. You don't want to just jump into it and it's like 1,000 reps a day and I'm gonna pop my my consciousness into a new state of awareness. Okay, you're gonna end up like you're gonna tear something, but you'll end up potentially getting an injury to the point where you have it'll be like painful to walk or urinate. And as a kind of disclaimer, you could tear something or possibly gain prostate damage from increased pressure and overworking that area. It's not likely hemorrhoids for the sphincter. People sometimes get that overworking those areas. So that's to think about, that's to be known before diving into something like this. Do your research, and if you have any issues or pre-existing issues, then consult your physician before attempting anything like this. And I say consult him to say, do I have an issue which you can look at. I'm not saying go get some pills or go get surgery to change your body. Okay, it's a disclaimer as much as it is, a good physician, an actual physician, not a doctor that doctors and manipulates and snips and is like, yeah, I made a new you. I have pretty much a new shoulder, although that was a whole different experience entirely. I wouldn't have that if I didn't have certain other experiences. A good person will be able to look at your muscles, even feel part of your muscles, sorry for the hand motion there, and tell if there's a muscle out of place, a tear, or an underlying issue that's going to cause pain and probably going to be exacerbated through an intense exercise. So you have to always think about that and know about these things before possibly inducing damage. So then, the importance of breathing and posture, and breathing intention and actions. Actually, what was it? Breathing intentions and distractions. Excuse me, I was distracted by myself. So this is an interesting one. It'd be better to read this one too. It's kind of long, but where you are and where you are coming from in any given moment, when you're online, you're at work, you're in the store, wherever it is, school, at a party. Hopefully you don't do too much partying because we've got a lot of work to do on the planet, or whatever you want to call it, this realm that we're in. We're in our minds. We're in a cosmic mind. Okay, got a lot of work here. So whoever's partying the most, they're BSing the most because there's a lot of work to be done. And so, and imagine that, a worldwide party after we were like, oh yeah, we got over these problems. We have the cures for all the major diseases. We stopped, the fictitious overcrowding or population problems because people were just living selfishly, greedily, and poisoning everything at a maximal level. Like, it couldn't possibly be more poisonous. And we fixed all that, and it's like, we got another 200,000 years projected before we run into any serious problems or issues. It'd be a worldwide party forever. I'd probably be reading a book though. Maybe. Anyway, so anywhere you go, people. It's about distractions. People notice being distracted. Say you're online. That's the easiest way to see it. You're online and you're just browsing around. Okay, now you see something you don't like, or you have a video or something like that, or a post, and somebody sends you some hate, basically, some insults. Or they just don't see your way. As simple as that. Okay, so that's going to be detrimental to somebody if they're invested in what they're observing. Now, you could say that you should be invested in what you're observing because, that's what you're doing. But the idea is, if you are invested in that, then what did you decide to do or what did you intend to do when you decided to go online, or to go to the store, or to go to that person's house, or to that lecture, or wherever you went and you found that resistance? What were you intending to do at that point? Excuse me. So, unless you were saying, okay, I'm here, I'm doing the practice to focus on my breathing, to keep my muscles in check, my skeletal alignment in check, to balance my emotions, and to deliver this message, or to absorb and handle a certain issue and add to that issue in whichever way that I can, okay? Unless you were saying that, then how can you complain or be surprised if something so simple as somebody producing a different experience, a different opinion, or mentioning something that's insulting, okay, that exist in the world, and insulting people or ignorant people that don't know what they're doing and are just, and that's the other point, they might not mean it, they're just stepping on people's toes, not realizing what they're doing, okay? And they don't really have huge feet, so it's not like there's no excuses there, buddy. You know, alright, if you're Shaq and you have like, what size, like 16 or 22, whatever size foot he has, you got some leeway for stepping on people's toes, okay? We'll remember to make room for you. But if this is a regular person stepping around on people's feet, but the point is, if they don't know, it's not excusable, but the fact is you can't take it like they're targeting you. They're just fools. That's what they do. And there's always going to be one or the other. They're all one big cylinder-shaped, smooth-edged group of people, and there's no change. We're all the same. Same IQ, same intention, same opinion, then everything's, and we're robots. So we have to learn how to make use of that, learn from it, not get polarized, okay, and maintain neutrality. And as well, the idea is, if we didn't have a set experience, an outline for what we were going to experience, what we intended to discover and experience, then how can we get disturbed when we're easily disturbed by something we read or interact with or connect with when we're out in public or online or something like that? Did you intend to not be disturbed when you went online? Okay, are you just browsing randomly because that's how you're killing time? Okay, well then you're welcoming that disturbance. It doesn't mean don't do that. It just means have a specific set of parameters for your experience. Now what this does is it works twofold, because you're not only going to think about where you're going and what might happen before that, you're also going to outline whether you are actually disturbed or not. If you're at, just baseline, and the baseline has no definition, well then everything's disturbing. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean literally, you read something and it's like a cute baby or a cat or something like that, and you're just like completely just like, some people cry instantly. They're like, oh my god, it's so beautiful. There's nothing wrong with that, although overstimulation, over instability, emotional sensitivity, that is going to, because it works the other way too. When it's something shocking, you're going to cry in fear. Okay, same thing. Unless you polarize, but you remember to be neutral when you want to be neutral. And that's also about the sexual charge thing. It doesn't mean never have sexual charge, always be neutral, never be polarized, never have an orgasm of a sexual nature. One, that's kind of not possible. But two, no, it just means do that when you're sexually polarized. Then throughout the day, don't be polarized by every ad with a beautiful woman or with every temptation, in these stores and a strip club or something like that. Okay, and the TV shows and beautiful women that are showing themselves off, stuff like that. Okay, that means to not be polarized throughout the day. It means to remember to be neutral, because that's the point. You have polarization, then you have neutrality. If you don't, if it's all blurred together, the meaning is lost. That's the whole point. It's the same thing with neutrality and polarization in your mind. If you're just going out and it's just whatever, you're always polarized, everything is polarizing to you every single moment. If you remember to remain neutral by coming from a neutral place, then you can measure whether you're disturbed and being brought into polarization or not. And so the idea is to continue. The idea is that if you are on there and you're at a baseline level which isn't defined, then whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's one way or the other, it's all going to influence you and bring you off of a center, because you didn't have a center before that. And it's now you're reflecting that and you're brought into that world. So then, say you go on, you have a breathing practice, you build an observation of your emotional patterns, of your breathing, of your state of mind. You go from there to determine what you're going to experience, how much time you're going to spend in a certain area, what your intentions are for connecting through social media or researching a certain topic. That's the other thing with social media. You can go somewhere and you can research a topic. Social media, people have done the research for you, and then it all comes up in your feed. So try to define, specialize, and observe, and therefore become consciously intending, gain conscious intent over where your information is coming from and how you're being influenced. That's the goal. Through that, you gain the opportunity to influence yourself and others, and to exert and exhibit conscious control over your experiences, over whether you're going to interact with this one or not, whether you're going to be interfered with, or you're going to explore, research, or be influenced by this experience or person or people, place, thing, whatever it is, or not. You gain conscious control over it. Now it's a, do I want this or do I not? That's an option. It's a potential. It's a power, and you gain the possibility to express yourself. Okay, so that's what it's about, because without that you don't have it. It's just all automated, and that's where people are that's the bulk of the situation in the system right now. People are kind of automated towards that, and they're generating that more and more. And so that's the idea, that when we're in those states, and if we don't have a definite level of baseline that we're coming from, everything is insulting. Now, say you, I'll continue. Say you do the breathing, you have the intention, you have your heartbeat, your emotional sense, your breath rate, everything's in check, your posture. Now, you go and see something, there's an insult, a shocking piece of news, whatever it is. If you see it and it disturbs you, okay, but your breathing, your heart rate, and your brain waves are still at a gentle baseline, which is pretty much off of what baseline is normally. Normally it's like kind of just depressed, just like whatever. And so gentle baseline to a human now is almost like an ascended master for what it was 1,000 years ago, is just normal. Which is crazy, but that's what they're doing. If you can just handle reality, you're an ascended master. you're enlightened or whatever. Not really though, but that's kind of how it's being played out. But so if you're at that level of peace, okay, if you're at peace, if you're at control, if you're at conscious awareness of these cycles, then you see something and it's disturbing, or it's emotionally stimulating, whatever it is. But the brainwave, the emotions and the mental focus, the heart rate and the breathing has not changed, and you're still calmly observing and producing intention over every change that occurs. Has that really disturbed you? Have they influenced you? Have they boosted you, pushed you off center? Not boosted you, but pushed you off center. No, they really haven't. Now, if you keep going back to that and it gets at you more and more and more, okay, then there's going to be something there. It's going to be a disturbance that develops there. So the idea is that when you develop that baseline that you then come forth from, you can also say whether I've been disturbed by this and this is too much, I'm being brought out of my peace, or I've maintained peace. Because there's a lot of times you'll see something, your heart rate instantly goes up and it's like, this mother effer, and you want to respond. Also, don't respond repeatedly, or immediately. Take time to breathe and think, and the ego wants to respond right then and there, because that's what feels the damage. Nothing happened. No missile came in. No people knocked on your door and said, you're a dummy because somebody said something stupid about you. Nothing like that happens. But the ego pretends and plays that out, and that's what's damaged by words. The ego is an illusion. Those words are illusions, so they mesh and they influence each other. The soul, the spirit, doesn't care. There's nothing to do with that. Nobody defines you. You define you. So what matters what you believe about yourself. And so remember that, and that's how it works. And as well, if you practice that, just like the integration of the charge and the tensegrity through your muscles and all those things, you'll know when somebody gets you off kilter, okay? But if you don't have that baseline, how would you know? Technically, everything is getting everyone off kilter. Everyone's always off kilter at that point if we have no baseline to come from. And so, I talked so long, this shut off. So I went right back to this spot, I think. Cool. This is like an old Model 1. Well, I shouldn't say old. It's technically new, but I guess it's digital. Yeah, it's digital. It's not tape. Anyway, excuse me. Not magnetic tape. Technology is interesting. Digital magnetic tape recorded through waves, imprinted onto the metallic kind of tape, or digital stored in little flash chips. Interesting stuff. Old tech too. Now you can see through the computers now. They're like on glass little sheets. Anyway, off topic there. Okay, so I explained the mental motion. That's the feeling of being tickled, the feeling of doing something. Like I'm punching out into the air. I can barely do that with my right because of the tendon issue. But imagine now I'm thinking of doing that motion. I'm literally like swatting past the leaves. Okay, I'm thinking of doing it. The neurons are firing in my brain. Same thing's happening. There's an electrical pulse going down. The only thing is that I'm not acting on it. Okay, it's beginning to go down. It's probably not actually going down. Although technically, when you do it to that degree, it does go down because you can feel a tingle in your hands and your arm. Okay, so there is an effect when it's practiced that way. So when you're doing that and imagining energy moving, that's when those nadis, those channels, the lymph, all these areas in the muscle and the tissues, the endocrine or lymphatic system, they're actually being stimulated. Okay. And the immune system actually is stimulated, and the cells have a response. There's an electrical communication that occurs there. Okay, so when a person's disturbed, or when the energy is going out the least difficult way, the easiest way, okay, or the most habituated way, that meaning it's automated and you haven't begun to construct and build your energy through the channels, which requires that intention, the effort, the motivation, the force, the charge, the base magnetic charge into, from the base chakra level to what's around you, if it's sexual, to the internal level between the higher and the lower of the body and the mind. Okay, When you do that, it's going to express out physically or in lower energetic methods or experiences, which is usually sensory. It's sensationally based. That's how it's experienced without the higher mentality introduced. When it is, and I talked about this earlier, when it is combined with motivation, effort, intention, willpower, and constructively drawn up through that power, that willpower, that guidance, that conscious guidance, not automation, but conscious guidance, acknowledgement, awareness, and produces that awareness of when you run into these problems of why it won't work or does work, you're building self-awareness. When it's done through that, you chain the higher pathway, from the lower route to the higher pathway, and it doesn't express physically, it expresses through each one of the higher chakras, from emotion and feeling, love to another, to your feeling of connection, of unity in the world and the larger world and yourself, connected within yourself, to your ability to voice these issues, to speak, to give what you perceive to be knowledge, to others, to organize and talk about these issues, or the knowledges, the patterns, the lessons, the pathways, what you experience, to the ability to determine and see in the world and how it all connects, to ultimately a high spiritual experience of all of them tying together to this what's the crown. And you have this an awakening experience, basically. The physical awakening, or the spiritual awakening, is pretty much like the Illuminati's awakening, which is through this technology, explanation of these methods, integration of the higher and the lower, tempting and testing a person, pushing all their buttons until they're ready to explode, and they give them a decision to either go through the lower path of aggression or sexual release, or basically fear, aggression, sexual, all those things, or going to the higher path and conserving your energies, and basically this cyclone spiral of toroidal energy goes through the whole process, and you begin to see. They unlock your memories, okay? They show you these other realms. You see reality, and it begins to look like a show. They're all props. And somebody's mind made it, and your mind made the majority of the ones you interact with. Okay, the same thing happens when you have a spiritual awakening experience. Your mind unlocks all the elements that are normally hidden to you, okay? And you see things from that unconscious, what is normally an unconscious observer aspect, and you see it as if you painted the whole picture. And the person you are now, the identity, is someone whose script, their role in the play, you wrote the script of. As if everything you didn't mean to do and everything you did. And it's a really weird, transcendent experience. And weird in a good way. Because it's like, who would have thought that? Who would have thought the guy on screen in the show, CSI, not that one, Fringe is a better one, excuse me, sorry CSI people. Yeah, it's too fancy. But you can say Fringe is too fancy, they don't have stuff like that. Oh yes they do. And CSI people do, but not the detective down the street. Okay, I lost my place there, talking about TV. So, who thought whatever show you're watching, the guy on camera, or the lady, maybe that was, I forgot, because it's imbalanced there, it's guy or girl, they're both, anyway, what a boring show, it's just guys. And so who'd have thought the actor is actually the camera as well. It's actually the props and the scenes around. They're actually the script writer, the playwright, or the scene director, and their producer. Imagine they're the TV and the audience. Okay, that'd be really weird, but that's the weirdness that I mean. It's interesting. It's possibility. Just I don't even know how to. We don't have a word for that. It blows all the possibilities out of the water. Anything is possible at that point if you're everything. So you're also nothing at that point if you're everything. But it really doesn't work that way, because you can't say, like the Schrodinger cat is not that, and the quantum probabilities, possibilities, it's not that it's one, the other, and neither of them. No, it actually just means it's one and the other. And that's the whole point. There's one, the other, and a dual transcendent quality of both. So you could say it's neither because those are actually going to be interpreted other ways, but you can't really say it's nothing because there's nothing's nothing. A little bit of strange semantics there. So, fear, the catalyst, and the control system. Fear, the catalyst, and the control system. So, excuse me. And so, basically, our manipulation, our manipulability, there's a better word for that, I can't remember, or it's pronounced differently. It's a different, was it a conjunction? No. It's when you change the words. Anyway, that's used as part of the system to bring people into a lower state of consciousness and awareness where they can then be put into these roles of that play or a script or whatever it is where they don't have the power to change things. And usually when they're doing that, they're working, they're producing energy, they're producing change that someone else is profiting off of. It is benefiting someone else. Their mindlessness, their use in that is someone else's pleasure. They're ultimately, we're used as reality generators, and these beings live within the frequencies that we produce. And they don't have to have bodies, they don't have to have whatever, they can actually attain existence within the non-physical realms, because they get people to continually say ho-hum and produce these energies which float up and connect to these realms, and they have a big environment there that they live in, a big society. Sounds strange, but that's what it is. And the technology that has been invented allows one to physically get into a craft. You don't have sticks, but I do now. And you can travel literally through a thought bubble of your mind, pulse brought out around you, around this craft, into these realms of thoughts or astral energies. But it's technological from that schematic, because the ones that are being produced now, they're being amplified negatively, this negative energy, by these generators that are also feeding back. And we're in this technological feedback system. It's an AI mind control grid. And they live then within the body, the spiritual body of this entity, these dark factions and beings. And but they can actually travel to and from Earth using these craft. And a truly heightened being can just appear. But again, what's going on here is so lame, pretty much, that those beings wouldn't even want to appear here. It's just like, what are you doing? Like, we could come here and attack everybody, but we'll have to at least clean it up a little bit, so at least we can then, everyone can know. They're so stupid they wouldn't even know that we're here attacking them. Excuse me for everyone that might have insulted, but it's real weird. And their goal is to try and bring these beings to the plane, but they know that they really don't want that, because chances are they actually lose, because there are more beings invested in this plane being a realm of harmony than want it to be turned to chaos, because harmony wins throughout the whole universe. Otherwise the whole universe would just be a big lightning bolt, a pile of explosives, and that would be the universe. It's like, wow, that worked for 2 seconds, that was it. No, it's working so long, it's sustaining itself for so long, it's containing so many variables and change that are organized, because it's based on harmony. And they don't even use harmony. I'm on a tangent here, or they don't use chaos, they use harmony. They use chaos like a weapon to destabilize others. And they go back and sit, and it's all peace and quiet, and they organize everything in a nice function, a schedule, and they have a supercomputer organize their brain, because it would be really weird otherwise, because times would just be all simultaneously occurring and nothing would make sense. No, everyone loves harmony. People that don't are just using that as a weapon. There are some non-physical beings that enjoy continuous chaos, but those aren't the ones that are here in bodies. You can say they're put into bodies, but guess what? There are silly humans that try to weaponize them and build super soldiers that did that. Okay, whether they were successful or not, those humans aren't humans. They're pretending to be. And there are those other beings that are acting that way. Yeah, and that other part, hell is man-made, it's an artificial technology, technological source. So that's what I'm talking about. They invented these intermediary planes. Normally it would be just a physical plane, and the emotions and experiences around that I described in this video, and then the high plane, the deity plane, the spiritually aware plane. They developed these intermediaries because they can't access the high plane. So they developed a non-physical, we can trap you over here plane, and that's the astral. It's all technological. If the devices turn off, they have no more. That's kind of what we're looking at here in this age. Spiritual, sexual trauma, that's kind of what I've been talking about, is basically used to create a containment system that people are buffered away from reaching those high planes of self-awareness, of wholeness, of empowerment, and therefore not having a leader, listening to somebody else who allows you, the person allows to create their thoughts for them, or their impulses and their ideas and what they're going to care about, think, and do. And at that point, then through that, create these higher planes that those controller beings live on, secretly live on. They don't actually live on Earth. The controller beings, etc., that they have clone bodies here. They live in these other planes, which are technologically, they're like supercomputer systems from here. But that is the idea. They're still, okay, well, guess what? That body you saw, you can do whatever you want to it. Don't be violent. But say somebody blew up that body. Well, guess what? They're going to pop out tomorrow, and they're going to wipe that memory from everybody, and that's that. It's going to be like it never happened. So it's not a physical thing. They're ruling from a computerized astral system, a techno-spiritual plane that the only answer is to learn. And as well, they serve the purpose of teaching us. If you're going to keep sitting there and letting them do that, okay, it's, you have to assume self-responsibility. It's the same with self-abuse. If they've created hypersexuality, which is what they do, and a lot of people end up spending years of their life dealing with this problem. And if you then go on to abuse yourself sexually by getting into promiscuity, or like self-gratification, whatever it is, pornography, drug use, basically just stuff like that, okay, or abusing others, okay, or hopefully not like a profession where now that's all you do, because that's all they own, those professions, they own all that. Then the person must take self-control. They must assume self-responsibility. Are you going to say, yeah, I'm the reason I got raped as a kid or something like that? Excuse me if that triggered anyone. Okay, I understand. But no, you can't, because that's the trick. They say it's your fault. You allowed us to do that. Well, no, unless it happened after the age of reason, and unless I was fully informed of the parameters and the schematic of the situation of what you were doing. If you were tricking somebody and you didn't inform them that this is a trick, okay, that's the other person tricking that person. If that person ends up having a sexual intercourse with the guy or the girl who tricked them, okay, that's basically rape. That's what that is. So you can't rape somebody and blame them. That doesn't work. So they're going to play that off though and say, you humans, you just love us raping you. That's why we've been here for this whole time. No. When this all comes out, it's going to be marked that those are rapists, those are molesters, they're spiritual entities that are, to a degree, they're humans interacting with the spiritual entities, and those humans are sellouts to the human race. They're cowards, they're rapists, they're thieves, they're criminals, and they're spiritual delinquents. And that was how they made profit on the system. Not that humans need to be raped, and we couldn't get over the desire to all this abuse. No, maybe later on, when people didn't get over it and they prolonged it, okay, and there's still leeway there as far as would that have happened if they wouldn't initially been, because that could all be connected to the initial occurrence. There's a leeway there, but the first event can't be said that, and so when this all comes out, those people will be outlined. They're not going to get hanged, okay. Again, they have clone bodies, so it wouldn't do anything anyway. But all is going to be in the truth. Then imagine, how are they going to play their tricks? That guy's a mortal clone, blah, blah, blah. We're going to take him out. It's like, well, that wouldn't work, so what do we do? Well, don't let him trick you. It's that simple. Don't participate in these actions. Don't listen to people that don't have true authority and are just telling people that they have authority, because what does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. If they just tell you they have the authority to tell you what to do, who says who? Says them? Okay, that's nonsense. That means nothing. But of course people listen because they have power and money. So people have to get over that part. And however, this stuff, that's the system. That's how they draw energy. That's a spiritual enslavement system. That's what, if you look around, you see all the pornography, the lawlessness, spiritual degradation, the looseness, the crazy stuff that goes on in schools today, on the TV. Half TVs are pornos or soft porn. Half the shows. The music videos, stuff like that. All that stuff, okay, that's all spiritual degradation. Regardless of who says, I'm fine with that, it's not going to hurt me, whatever, blah, blah. Okay, well, imagine we post these generators on, and a bunch of higher spiritual beings come down, and a bunch of high energy comes down. Those people are blinded. They can't see. The energy is so strong from these high spiritual beings, they can't even see around it, okay? Imagine that. So, that's serious. Imagine then this realm becomes the heavenly realm. Those beings that were just like, yeah, it's fine, big butts and stuff, okay, they're going to literally walk around like this in the dark for their mind, because they'll be blinded. It'll be light, not dark, but light for them, but it'll be so bright they can't see. They'll be blinded. They'll literally have to have somebody take them and walk them around, because they won't be able to see anything. They'll be like a baby. Alright? And everybody that's been fine with discipline and spiritual development and whatnot, you'll see a world of light. A world, not the holographic light, the false light, dark duality, whatever. Okay, a world of truth. Okay? A world of liquid etheric light that's non-holographic. And it was here the whole time. We'll understand. And we just moved into that frequency. And those that were, in this world were pushed against that in favor of, there's not a big difference, I'm against, sluttery and stuff like that, or I'm for it. Well, technically I have more fun because it's around the world of TVs, friends, school, society, whatever, and if I'm against it, well, I'm just alone over here. Yeah, but you're with your spirit, you're with yourself, you're with a pure clarification of who you are. And when it all comes out, then these beings will appear, we will appear, people will be enlightened, if you will, and those people that didn't agree with that then, just because it's easier to go along with the system, they'll be blind then, okay? They'll be blind, didn't agree with it now, they'll be blind then, they'll be lost, they're confused. Everything switches, it's like a pyramid, okay, and it switches around, and then the few down here will be literally the people who are slutty and spiritually degraded and stuff like that. The use of these arts, whether it's like an exercise, a spiritual martial art, meditation, being aware of your energy, observing yourself, building up these visualization energies. When you visualize energy moving and you kind of feel a tickle in a way, you're just pretending you're feeling something. It's the same thing. Or, moving like your arm, and then, okay, now pretend the same thing. Well, pretend you have little waves of energy in your body and do the same thing, okay? But just feel it instead of doing something. That's how you build spiritual protection. You build a spiritual net, a field of energy around you. You pulse out these entities that crawl. They're usually behind a person. That's how they get around. They hide because we have a ray, like a finder, like a radar around us. When you get good enough, you'll be able to feel by the hairs on your neck, the feeling inside. These are like magnetite. You'll feel when magnetic fields of these electromagnetic energies are around, because they leave an electromagnetic imprint, basically a magnetic sense around you. If you're sensitive to these emotions, it feels like somebody's disgusting. Some weird fiendish entity is around, or energy, or some like creepy guy watching you. That's what it kind of feels like, to be blunt. And so you build up this charge to you. It's, my hands are still, I'm not moving, but I'm imagining doing this. Okay, now I'm doing that with light, with positive, powerful blue light, white light, okay? To them, it's a slap in the face, because they're made of energy. You get it? So that's the scalar influence. That's how you control these energies in these fields. Now, again, doing that to your body, okay, you're drawing up a charge, or you're pushing it away, you're moving around. It's energy. To the light body, you're actually moving it. To the physical body, it's beginning to have an effect, but it's through the body, it's through the mind. And the important part there is that these energies, you can slap them right in the face. Now, don't get in a boxing match. Direct. Really don't slap, don't do that type of stuff either, because when you exchange energy on a mental level, it's literally like having your hand inside the blob thing from the swamp. It's like, okay, now I'm touching you. So literally just create a sovereign visualization field around you that is beating with the heart and the mind and the sense of focus, and claim it. And use your free will to basically claim what's in that area, and claim basic sovereignty and separation from anyone trying to abridge your free will and be here in this place, in your space, without your permission. Everything in the universe has a free will, and it has a free sovereign space. You are a universe. Therefore, the energy of you, your space, is not Maryland, coordinate, whatever. No. Wherever you go, that's your space. That's your universe. So if a being has to, from this hyperspace realm, comes to you, it's traveling into a universe up and around and going through tunnels and stuff to get to you. So if it's in your universe, you can kick it out. That's the big secret. But you have to actually, know I'm off balance because somebody's messing with me, okay? But you can't know that if you don't have a balance to begin with, and you have to know about your free will and about agreements and conscious agreements of whether you're saying, hey, get out of here, and then you go dive in a pool of crap and spiritual disgust and waste, which is also that entity's home and feeding ground, okay? So it's all about clarifying, taking self-awareness and confidently exerting your influence to control the possibilities that you have control over, and therefore building up basically a light body construct that you have more so ownership. It's technically the only thing you have ownership. Your space, what's within you, okay? Even in this realm, they have it written that you don't have ownership over your body, but you do. But they're going to try and tell you don't, that they can decide what goes inside you or not. That's rape. Rape with a device, same with rape with, sexual organs. Same thing. Somebody goes inside you with a medical device, okay, that's rape. It's medical rape. These practices, the spiritual energy, the martial arts, the hard Qigong is continuous work to build up the muscle memory, the brain, and energy, and the soft Qigong is just the energy. It's a relaxation. It's using the mind to create a flow, okay? There's the two differences. When they're combined, and when you have a powerful flow there, that's very difficult to overcome. Imagine people are just like, yeah, whatever, we're doing this, that's on TV, they're doing that, let's do that. Imagine how easy it was if you were one of these entities to infiltrate, to take over, to leech off of people. So that's their plan. They've made this a feeding ground, and the humans sold everyone out so that they can profit off of it. I don't know. I don't really know what their plan was as far as that. I talked to them about it and asked them about it, and I don't know if they really know what their plan was. Alright, I guess the ultimate goal, that concludes that. The ultimate goal is self-awareness. That literally is the ultimate goal. To do all these things, to build it up, to become aware of what's messing you up, where the energy is, what's out there in the world, and what's here to distort, and the fools, spiritual fools, or entities, and physical fools, people. You know, to become aware of these things, and then the universe, the laws of the universe, how energy flows, polarity, transcendence, the mechanics of the body, the nadis, the organ system structure, the fluids, the humors, you know, the bile and lymphatic fluids in the blood, and the joints and the breathing and the cycles and the patterns and the mathematics behind that, the geometry. Okay, all of this is so that you know about it. That's it. That's all of it. I mean, it's not it, but that's the end result, is that you know about it and you know how you relate to it. That you have a place in that huge complex universe, and within you is actually all the complexity of the things that are out there in the universe. That's the magic behind it. So if you're going outside yourself to interact with the universe, you're actually leading yourself on a goose chase. That when you go through these processes and you're interacting with yourself to develop a higher form of understanding, balance, and self-awareness, you're actually interacting with the complexity of the nature of the universe, and the way you're interacting with the universe. And so that's kind of how it works. And because that change, every change that happens to you and within you is going to bring changes around you. It's going to influence the reality that you're interacting with. That's why these entities are around, okay? And they're like, you know, feel this way, think this way, let us into your whole stuff, man. And you're literally like, all right, that's cool. No, nope, not having it. Go somewhere else. Thank you. That's a nice offer, but no thank you. And they're literally like they leave, they flee. They flee technically when you tell them to get out in that confidence, in that high emotion. Not high emotion, but high spiritual balance, okay? Which is just like a charge, but it's not overly emotional. It's not one or the other. It's calmness. It's a focus and calmness that comes from another dimension, meaning it's literally empowerment beyond the physical. That, when you say get out, they flee, they run. And when you literally sit there and just, they can't get a rise out you, they leave because they are wasting energy. These beings are parasites. They are wasting energy. If they do that, they cannot stay around you, you see? So that's why it's a big, strange situation where it's all about self-control and empowerment and confidence and free will, because people who are continually beckoned and they're, you know, perturbed, okay, they're allowing it on some degree, which is the ugly truth, that it's being allowed. And a lot of people like the way this stuff feels. So it's a whole other story altogether. Those are the spiritual addictions and possessions that occur, where that the desire of the being becomes the desire of the person. Okay, that's a possession. That's what possession is. And then you get all sorts of visions and crazy stuff interfacing with this non-humanoid, non-souled, spiritual-wise being from another dimension. Okay, and when your mind interfaces with that, they actually have certain words for that in the secret societies and all these weird occultic followings. You know, it's a process though to learn about it. Okay, if they're learning about it, well, we can do what we can off of this learning and make it better. And that's why it's a weird situation when we talk about secret societies, the elite, or these groups, because some of them go in and they're learning about this and they're like, well, how does it take people over? It takes people over from another dimension? What the F is that? And they're figuring out how to overcome it. And then other people are like, I take people over from another dimension. Alright, grab them, put them there, then you turn those generators on, fire these symbols up, get them to accept, do you want this? And they're like, what is this? Oh, it's something fun. So, okay, and then they do it. Some of them are tricking, okay? So it's like a split. I'm not going to say half and half, or who, or what names, or whatever. And a lot of times the people you think are doing the bad are not, because that's the point. The people that are in control are making you think they're the bad ones. That's the whole point. The people that are in control, have the negativity, have the power. So what you know is not who's really responsible. That's the whole point. The bad people did that, and they put these people out there to be scapegoats. So that's why blaming people, these figureheads in public, all this stuff is it's a lot of illusion. It's a lot of crazy stuff that's not gonna. It's gonna run you. Go ahead, have fun. It's gonna run you in a goose chase in circles. We are in control when we link together and bring about our power and take self-responsibility and have control over what's happening in our lives and build a network from that. We're going to watch their tentacles fade because they can't suck off that system. Okay, they can't feed on it. And so that's the answer. As well, we can go and specifically tell them, this area is ours. Everyone here does not want that. Now you leave this area and begin to build basically heavenly realms within this realm. So that's a little bit about that. Yeah, the end goal, when all that's done, and every distortion, every conflict, every resistance, every challenge and overcoming, every new talent and lesson, every strength, every layer of understanding, every layer of embodiment and selfhood, from emotions to mentality to physicality, that's kind of reversed, that's you knowing yourself. The end result is you gaining self-awareness of who you are in a cosmological sense, maybe a universal spiritual sense, basically. And there's a combination of physical, mental, and emotional. It's that you become who you really are. So, that's the end result, the end goal, the ultimate goal. So thank you for listening. If you did, I'm going to go ahead and end this there. I think it was about an hour or so. So a little bit different from the other videos, but that's stuff that this is what I do. This is why I had the experiences that I had and still have. Usually, not too much dark stuff now. There's a lot of weird stuff that goes on. Memories go. We're all in this weird, like, multiplexing of realities that are all occurring simultaneously, which is, it's more interesting, to know that your TV show is spliced together with a bunch of different TV shows than it's just one TV show. Sure, it's confusing, but eventually when it all gets organized, we realize we ended up with 50 different TV shows instead of just one. So it's interesting. Thank you. Just another thing real quick. I got a little wooden selfie stick I whittled down and made, because plastic is wasteful. I hope the wind's not messing this up. And they do have technology to convert plastic into basically biodegradable forms, and so plastic doesn't have to be that technology to heal the whole world, including the minds and bodies of people, and souls and spirits and emotions. And the spirit doesn't need healing; it just is either here more or here not so much. Soul can be healed, memory, emotions can be reinvigorated and aligned, and the mind can be aligned and healed in the body. It's getting a little chilly now. So imagine the light forces. Those are simply people who decided to align with this more healing pathway, this the positive changes, and introducing that and working for that and pushing out these negative entities. But all is free will, so nobody's going to come out and push your negative entities away unless you permit that, particularly, and make an effort to do so, because free will can't be abridged. And so they can also say, the entities, are being welcomed by you, because that's what these other guys did. That because they did that for the whole humanity. So because some guys were like, yeah, we use these entities, come on in. Okay, well, now everyone has to say, no, I don't agree with that, because they did it. So now they get to say, well, these other humans love it. That's their society. That's the way they work. Crap. Well, now we have to define ourselves. We have to introduce that distinction. And so the light forces, imagine Harley. It's the most annoying vehicle ever. So imagine these light forces are simply people that have the high technology, the advanced technology, and hold true to these methods and these spiritual self-identity, self-awareness, spiritual self-awareness. That's all it is. If you're being abused, if you're abusing others, if you're witnessing it, if it's happening to you, okay, well, you're not aware of your energies and yourself and who you are and what's going on. So that's all it is self-aware, spiritual self-awareness, or lower awareness, not self-aware. And therefore self-control, or automation, and basically like duality mindedness, automation, dominance, like basically being controlled, being forced to do something, subservience. Okay, it's either one or the other. It's not both. I know the wind is messing that up. And so that's what it's about. Imagine these forces are simply people. They're people that could be higher dimensional or have access to these higher dimensional realms, but they're basically using this technology and looking out for humanity and assisting in that. And imagine if both sides are from these other planes. Okay, well, those are the ones that the humans are going to end up coming to when they heal themselves. So in the other planes and the damnation and all that, those are the planes that the humans that don't want to heal and go into like these automated demonic forces become or have become and kind of are coming back. So these are the light forces now, the ones that are coming back to heal and help. And it's not, coming back or there for before or after. It's not like that. It's just higher dimensional, lower dimensional. It's confusing at first, but that's how it works. Light forces are kind of polarized. Light forces are kind of polarized term, so let's just say they're forces working for the benefit of humanity. They're working for the protection and stabilization of this civilization. And just to say, the weird part of this is that the dark faction carried out their operations by basically finding and kidnapping the people who would be speaking out in the future, kind of like the way I am now. And so they found out you can't change time by coming from the perspective that you're attempting to change, and all they did was actually work themselves, stitch themselves, causally into that moment, into that timeline, the storyline as being the cause of why we're speaking out. It's kind of reflexive, strange, paradoxical in that way.